See City play first on Sunday. Is it impossible to avoid that result? Will you allow the players to watch it? How do you treat it? Because it is City first, you second.
For sure, before we go on the pitch, we know the results, and everybody will know it, because it will spread out like this. We're going to be watching it, probably not, because we have to focus on our preparation, and we've been doing that for the last 10-15 games. Nothing changed. You keep an eye on what is happening, and you have to have information. But the demands that we put on ourselves is, okay, what can we do to control the things that we must control?
Do you have a preference at this particular stage of the season who goes first, whether you go first or you go second? Do you prefer to know what you're going to do?
The preference is that the result goes your way, the ones that you want, and after that it's very difficult. It sometimes becomes a real motivation, sometimes adds a little bit of pressure, depends a lot.
And this, they're at away at Everton, it's in between two really hard games. That is a major test for them, isn't it? Clearly you've got your own game, and that's going to be a major test, but it's a test of everyone's mettle at this stage.
Winning when you have to win and win and win and win, and we've been like that for the last 3 months. It's extremely demanding, especially because of the position that we are facing, and obviously they have been playing a lot of games as well. They've been resolving one way or the other in the right way, and we have to do what we have to.
Hi, Mikel.
Hi.
This time last year, you had quite a few injuries, and maybe the squad was a little bit thin then, and you couldn't quite get over the line to the Champions League. Does it feel different this time in terms of your capacity to absorb a number of absences? Do you think the squad's got an extra sort of depth and resilience to it?
Something that we have to prove right now. We lost 4 or 5 key players last year with 5 games to go. And we tried our best, but it's true that during the season as well, this season we have some key players missing many months, and we have been able to do that. So that's the demands that we need to have if you want to compete in for championships.
Did that period last season maybe help your resilience going into this season? Did you learn things from it?
For sure, but there are certain things that are unpredictable, and we cannot control certain other things probably that we could have managed better at a certain stage, but depends as well on the necessity or the momentum of or the performance of each individual is giving you to take less or more risk in the moment, and now we have to deal with that as well.
Mikel, you might not agree with this, but it seems like since the City game and the dynamic of this title race changed, your team looks a bit more liberated and sort of free, and I wonder if A, you agree with that, and B, if the psychological challenge of having something to lose is harder than having something to chase when it's twisted like that.
I'm sure you can justify there are moments that the team has looked freer in those 2 games, but the way I watched the team play against West Ham for 30 minutes when you have to win, and I said this is flowing, and became almost, it's too comfortable, and then we gave it away. So I don't know, I like what I see from the team right now. I think the energy is good, the mood is good, the confidence is good, the relationship are back, players are getting in the form again, and you can sense that even in training, and this is what we need right now.
Yeah. I guess is it different when you have it in your own hands compared to when you're then chasing it?
I prefer to have it in my own hands, 100%.
Yeah. And you mentioned just on Brighton and Zerbi, you mentioned he's brought a different idea to the league. For us a lot who aren't tacticians, can you explain what that is and what he does that is different to you and Pep and others?
Obviously, especially you're going to highlight straight away the capacity they have in that first phase of build-up to associate, to play in really small spaces, the way they link play, the patterns that they have. But as well, I think this brought a different mentality as well, and you see how they compete, how they went to Wembley, and the personality that they show at that stage. I think is something that I think the manager should take credit of, and I think Roberto has done that really well.
Dan, just a quick one, Mikel. Obviously, you talked about in the early part of your time at Arsenal, you had to be pragmatic with the players you had and adapting your philosophy. Regardless of what happens over the next few games, how close does it feel like to being, where you want to be and where your ideas are? Are you still having to compromise, or do you feel like this team is kind of at its pinnacle now in terms of...
We're still very far. We can be much better at a lot of things still.
In what
huge margins.
What kind of things?
Anything. We can be much better in our build-up, we can be much better attacking man-to-man situation, we can be much better attacking open spaces, defending deep set pieces. We have huge margins to do. In terms of game management, a lot of things that we can do is still much better. We can be more ruthless to kill games. It's a lot of things that we have to seek for improvement, because we don't have a single player that has reached his peak. No one. And when that happens, we as coaches have to be curious to understand what can we do to get them better, and then generate those connections that I think we've done pretty well, and keep developing them so they empower each other and they can take the game to a different level still.
And is that, if you're trying to unlock a player's potential, is that as much how like treating them off the pitch, maybe unlocking them psychologically as well as physically? What?
And clicking and getting into them and getting something else out of them, and there are certain players as well that they have to go to a different level in terms of the leadership, in terms of what they are able to transmit to the group, and the responsibility, accountability that they have to take for what happens here every single day, that demands the standards that we want at the club. It's a lot to do.
And have you got ideas that you haven't yet been able to implement because you don't feel like they're ready yet?
Yeah.
So does that frustrate you that you can't do that now?
No. At the end, they are the protagonists, and we have to try to give them the tools that they know how to manipulate. We're going to put them in certain positions that they're not going to be comfortable with that. And there are moments to put the players in those moments. Now is not the moment to do that, in my opinion.
Thank you.
Mikel, you said here last Friday, in fact you said a few times that you've never watched the Amazon documentary, and then after the game at Newcastle you said you used a clip of it to motivate the players. So what changed?
A feeling that I didn't want to watch it, but I put myself, and I think I needed to watch it. So I put just that part. I think it was a minute and 46 seconds, and I watched that part.
So you've deliberately avoided watching the whole thing? You've deliberately avoided watching the whole documentary?
For this part, yeah, in the summer I'm going to watch it.
Why have you waited so long to watch it?
Because I asked certain people that are really relevant in my life to watch it carefully and give me an assessment of what they think. Because I prefer much more their assessment than mine. Because I don't like watching myself on TV, on a press conference. I don't like listening to my voice. I don't like that. So probably my judgment is going to be not the best for myself.
You lost to Brighton last season. I just wondered might you watch a bit of that?
If that's a formula to win, if I have to watch it 50 times, believe me, I will do it.
Thank you.
Just, Mikel, in midweek we saw Real Madrid and Man City and the two Milan clubs in the Champions League. When you sort of look at the standard and the level of that game, are you sort of really excited to be sort of going back into that competition?
Yeah, because it's a different level. That's another level. You see the presence of the players. You see the charisma. You see how they handle the occasion. It's just magnificent to watch.
When you were talking just then about the players need to go to that level, is that the level they need to go to be able to compete with the Real Madrid and the Man City?
For sure, we want to be really in the Champions League, representing our club in the right way. You have to seek for that level, and there is no secret. You want to be to that level, you need certain ingredients to be there.
And what does it mean for the prestige really of the club to be back in that competition after whatever it is, 6 years out?
Great, and that's a first step. But once that's done, now we have to think about how we're going to be really the club that we want to represent at that stage, which is very different demands to the Premier League.
Is this the one competition that Arsenal have obviously never won? Is that the ultimate goal, to be
Yes.
champions of Europe?
That would be incredible to achieve that. We have to make still a lot of steps in the right direction and together.
Thank you.